Awesome.
And here we go. Today, we're in for a treat. We have the senior pastor of Georgiana United Methodist Church in Merritt Island. I'm just excited. That's all I can say. So fasten your seatbelt because we're going to learn and grow together. Oh, by the way, doctor, you're somewhat of a doctor. You feel hearts. I don't know if I told you, but it's mandatory to dance on my show.
Oh, Lord have mercy, no.
Yeah, it is mandatory.
The Lillian
Here we go.
McDermott
It's time to dance. Oh, you can do this. There you go. I knew you knew how to dance.
We make mistakes.
Yeah, you probably missed that part of the show, did you?
Yeah.
It seems like your best
I'm
day.
prepared for that.
You prepared for that? I caught you off guard.
Of hope, you know where I'll be.
Let's pretend you're on the bicycle at the gym.
That's right.
Right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me.
Here we go. I got you
Lillian,
to dance.
this is a good time for me to tell you that I don't even dance at weddings.
Waiting for you.
Here we go.
This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It is so nice to meet you on this day, on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are new to the Lillian McDermott radio show, the purpose of the show is to provide a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening and viewing friends, will feel empowered to live and embrace the life of your dreams and learn a new truth. This new truth that has been maybe the truth that you thought was real could be holding you back. And at this time, it will set you free to learn that there is another way, perhaps, that will set you free, that will take those limits away from you. And one of those limits could be conditional love. What is the kind of love that you experience as a child? Well, let me tell you something. This is something very special for me today. I've never been so excited to interview someone that I just met and I've seen a few times, but I knew there was something special about him. From the moment I met or heard Senior Pastor Corky Calhoun at Georgiana United Methodist Church, I knew that he would be in my life somehow. You know, when you walk around his energy field, or when he walks around you, you feel something very special. You know, some people have that special thing that you get attracted to, and he's got it. And so it's not something that you learn. It's not something that you can manufacture. It's something that has to come from a place of your essence. It comes from a place of being okay with being who you are. And so today I thought, you know, when he started talking, I had just written an article in February, and when he started talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's talking about the same stuff that I was talking about. And so then I realized, gosh, he's my brother from another mother. He is like someone that we need to get to know. And so today, because the article was about love, and he talked about love, I thought, let's talk about love and how love never fails. And then I thought, you know, never fails. How about if we talk about love always heals? And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I'm so grateful that Senior Pastor Corky Calhoun is here to do just that. Welcome, Corky, to the Lillian McDermott radio show.
Thank you, Lily. It's good to be here. I look forward to our time.
Yeah, I enjoyed my private time with you too. It was really nice to prep you before the show and get to know you a little bit better, read your bio. There's a lot about you that a lot of people do not know. And so why don't you share a little bit about your background and what you would like for us to know about you?
Well, you know, I'm 57 years old, so that's a lot of background, but I think the Reader's Digest version is I grew up in El Paso, in a family that was somewhere between impoverished and middle America. and needed to find a way to go to college. Went to the University of Florida on a scholarship, studied sports medicine there, opened a sports medicine practice in Melbourne in 1983, 84. And then did that for a number of years, for about 20 years, had a great experience, lots of fun kind of things as it relates to that field. And then in 1998, I got a call into ministry, and we sold our practice, and I moved to Atlanta, and my family stayed here in Melbourne, and we treated it like a traveling businessman. I'd come home every couple of weekends and did that for 3 years, and then just began a journey in ministry. So that's kind of how I got to where I am today. I've been at Georgiana this is my 15th year. So that's it's a long run at any one place. And so I'm married to a beautiful woman of 35 years. Dee Dee is her name. We have 2 sons. We're empty nesting in this phase of our life this season. Our oldest son, Kyle, is a patent attorney in San Francisco. And our youngest son, Chris, is a ICU nurse in Shands in Gainesville. So,
wow.
So we have sons we're really proud of, and if they would hurry up and make us grandparents, we'd be really happy. But that's kind of where we're at in life. We love the local church. We love our community. I think the key thing for us is the love we have for our community. So we love being here.
Yeah. So love is the key. Love is the key. But there is a lot of things, because you and I was very specific that this is very organic. This is conversational, and people get to be a part of our conversation. Our listening friends, our viewing friends get to be a part of this. But when it comes to love, I grew up with conditional love.
Sure.
And I've often said that conditional love is abuse, but I don't know if you know the 4 Agreements. Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. Wrote the 4 Agreements. Yes. I've spent some time with his son, Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. Ruiz Jr. instead of Senior, and he says no, conditional love is love, but it's just a different kind of love. And so let's talk about love today and the different aspects of what we need to have when it comes to love. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
Yes. And so we're going to go ahead.
I would add to what you said that I think conditional love is love with an agenda.
I like it. And we're going to continue our conversation with Corky Calhoun, pastor of Georgiana United Methodist, when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Okay. So see, that wasn't so bad.
That's a good start.
That's a good start. Awesome. Okay. So love with an agenda.
Yes.
Yeah. I will write this down. Yeah. So love with an agenda. So did you feel love your entire time as you were growing up as a child? Or did you feel,
no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I have an amazing mom. My father was not a very good person. And so probably my siblings received the greatest brunt because I was the oldest. Probably they were the greatest victims to my father's emotional abuse. So no, I didn't grow up with that. Had to really search and find male role models in my life. I found them through sports. And so that part of my life is really, really important to rewrite the fatherhood history, with my own kids. So
I've heard, and in my research, that when you have a father who is less than perfect, which most of our fathers are mothers, and we are less than perfect, but there are some others that are abusive and some are evil. Mm-hmm. That kind of clouds your perspective of God, because God is our parents are our gods when we're growing up, and then that kind of clouds the way we look at God. As a father, I personally believe God doesn't have a gender, but that's my own thing. Right. And so did that hinder you in any way, or did that say, no, I need a father?
I think it was cathartic for me. I can remember the first Father's Day when I recognized the fact that my Heavenly Father is everything that I'll ever need, that He is way beyond any earthly father I could ever have. Mm-hmm. And I think we live in a culture where there are not great male role models for our young people. And I think part of the problem is that we've convinced men that they need to be providers and not lovers.
That's something that we need to talk about too.
Yeah.
I'll be right here waiting for you.
Oh, there we go. Now you're
You
in.
can text Lillian
Wow,
McDermott
chair
to leave your
dancing and
voicemail
all.
at
Wow, we even got it.
407-373.
I even asked for it. Good job.
Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we always learn with one another. And today's teacher is the senior pastor at Georgiana United Methodist Church. My husband and I love to visit different churches because we believe that there is a community of like-mindedness in a church. It doesn't mean that everything they believe, I believe, but there's so much we can have in common,
Sure.
as opposed to what we don't have in common. And so we stumbled upon, actually we did not stumble upon, there was someone at my gym that was talking about her church. And I said, what church do you go to? Oh my God, I go to this wonderful church called Georgiana. Well, who names a church Georgiana? How did that name come about? And so I don't know if she was able to tell me, but she told me about the pastor there, Corky Calhoun. I didn't know anything about him. And when we got there, the church was so full that we were forced to sit in the front row. And so as Pastor Corky walks by us, I didn't know he was the pastor or not, but he walked and he looked at us, and as almost like he said, I know you're new. I know you're new, and welcome, just with his eyes. And then he proceeds to just give the most powerful homily or sermon. I don't know if I'm using the right terminology. And I said, he's got to come on my show. And here you are so many months later. Thank you so much, Corky, for being on.
Privileged to be here.
So I want to encourage you always to go to whenyouneedafriend.com and become a subscriber. But today's conversation's off the air. If you want to hear a little bit more of the backstory of Corky, you're welcome to go to whenyouneedafriend.com, click on that YouTube video, and it'll be there waiting for you after the show. So Corky, you have been, you shared a little bit about your father off the air.
Yeah.
And so at that moment, when you realized that God was all you needed, but in the same token, according to what you said to me, you were looking and seeking for these male role models.
Sure.
Share a little bit about that and what you felt.
That's, I can't speak for how it might be for you. I've certainly seen lots of wounded young ladies in our church who have poor father figures, who do not express unconditional love, do not express the fact that I believe God looks at all of us as his precious children who are worthy of unconditional love, even in our sinful nature.
Mm-hmm.
So you recognize that. I think innate in me was something that said, listen, I need to seek out male role models, healthy father figures, men who would help shape me to become something different than my father was. I just knew I wanted to be different than who my dad was. And so seeking that out, there have been, I would say, 6 or 7 men over 40 years that have filled that role. And even at 57, I have lunch once a month with 2 guys in their 70s and 80s. I'm constantly seeking for that next generation's insight and wisdom, and what can they tell me about having lived a full life, and what does it mean to be a grandfather, and these kind of things. So I think for me, it's a constant learning of seeking someone to help make me a better father, better man, better husband, better pastor. So I think you've got to seek your own teachers. I don't think teachers typically don't come find you. You've got to go find teachers. And
I don't know. I sometimes I wonder if when the student is ready, the teachers do appear.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they just appear.
Well, I think they're always there, but it's the students, what I call leadership cataracts, the inability to see clearly around you. But I think there requires some seeking. I think it's consistent in the scriptures that we're to seek, and So I've just been pretty intentional my whole life about that kind of thing.
Very good. And so, with love, love is the answer to all our problems was the article I sent to you that loving with urgency. And I've written a lot about love, but it's a different kind of love. It's the kind of love that you give without any expectations.
Right.
But, if we know that love is all we need, we hear that all the time, that love is the answer to all our problems, that love will set us free. All these things. Why is it that so many of us are still looking for the solution?
I think we have a hard time loving ourselves. I think that's a big issue, that if we can get past the fact that we are worthy of love to begin with, then I think it opens those alleyways and pathways for love to find us. And the truth is, we live in a broken, sinful world where love is not available to everybody. But I think it's only in the sense of the fact that your environment might create unloving environments. But I think we have to learn to love ourselves and know that we're worthy of that love. And once we do, then it's a matter of receiving it and being there. And I agree totally with what you said. I think that love is one of those things that is certainly the answer to all the problems that plague our world, that if we could love one another well, this would be a better place to live.
Absolutely. And so as we look at as I listened, there's something that came out, and I wanted to go back and address it. Yeah. You had talked about, you looked for father figures and then you went back and you corrected yourself and you said healthy father figures.
Yes.
Healthy father figures. So here's the thing. We lack a love, or that perception of love, or the kind of love we need, because you can love me, there's different kinds of love. I interviewed Gary Chapman, and he has the 5 love languages, and I've interviewed all these people so we have my kind of love, which is the love of time. My kind of love was the love of touch. Or maybe I can cook a beautiful meal, and that's a way I can love you. Sure. But if somebody's love is gift giving, we're not communicating properly. Right. We're not communicating. You're giving me things, but that's not the kind of love I need. How do you, as a pastor, when people come to you and say, I don't feel loved, I don't feel whatever, you fill in the blank in there, how do you get them back to that self-love? What is your advice for people that are seeking love, self-love, or whatever it is that they're looking for?
Let me back up to something you said. I love Chapman's work. I use it when I do premarital counseling. Mm-hmm. But I think part of what our problem is that we're continually trying to find a box to put love in.
Okay.
Put a category for love, instead of just experiencing the fact that it probably is all around us. Mm-hmm. So what I do with folks is I go to a 30,000-foot view, and let's look at your life the way God looks at your life, and find the ways and reasons that you are loved. That you're sitting in my office and I'm giving you my time. That means I care about you. I love you, and you're a part of who I am. You're a part of our church. You're a part of our community. And so I think we're constantly trying to help people get connected to those sources of love that, obviously come from people. So just trying to help them see themselves as God sees them. I think that's always the first step. And then connect them to healthy people that will love without an agenda. That's the key. Is we live in a world where I think people love with an agenda. I want what I want. And, I just taught this past weekend that when it comes to time, that nobody cares about your time or your life when they're asking for it. They just want what they want. Mm-hmm. And so what we try to do at church is create avenues and opportunities to love people, expecting nothing in return. So what we call at our place, no bounce back. So we're going to love you without the expectation that we're going to get something or need something from you. And I think that's a pitfall for churches and nonprofits in our community, is they're always taking, but they're rarely giving. And so we want to exist to give ourselves away, and love motivates that. It greases the skid. It makes things go well. So I think love is the conduit. Why else would you give yourself away? Why did Jesus die for us? Because he loved us. Love is sacrificial, but you have to help people understand that they are living in a place where that exists, because they may come out of environments where they don't experience that.
Okay, so you're talking about different kinds of love and about dying on the cross. And many people put themselves on that cross.
Sure.
And they become a victim.
Sure.
You know, the perception of love is now a victim kind of love as opposed to a responsible kind of love. Because in order for you to love unconditionally, you must be able to give and you must be able to receive. Yeah. Because if you're unwilling to receive, then you will eventually go bankrupt in your love bucket, in your love account, in your love of self.
Absolutely. I think the receive part is critical. We talk about this almost every Christmas. You know, we have so distorted Christmas where God gives his son, and then we are horrible receivers. You know, we get wrapped up in the gift we give and making sure it's of equal value. We fall prey to the comparison trap, and we are not very good receivers. You know, it's why it's hard to do things for other people, because they're prideful or they're arrogant or whatever it may be. They just don't receive well. So I think you're right on in the sense that we've got to be able to learn how to receive love. And once we've done that, then there's something really good that happens inside of us that makes you want to be dispensers of it.
Yes. Unless you're loving with an agenda. So there's, you know, we get to look for that responsibility, that like-mindedness, because, you know, I get to a point, I love to give. I love to give until there's an expectation. There's an expectation that you're just going to give, and I'm going to take. And there comes a time. So how do you stop that flow of that dysfunctional kind of love where you're giving all the time, the other person is taking, but doesn't know how to give, and you haven't been able to receive, because that's part of your idea of what love is about, is just giving. But then there's that other side, of love that we have not been conditioned to. You just give, and then all of a sudden you put yourself last on the list. You don't give yourself the love you need, and then you find yourself now again a victim. So it's that taking out that victim mentality and being purposeful and meaningful about love.
I think what you just described is all the unhealthy aspects of love.
Okay.
Relationships. So if you're in a relationship where it's lopsided, where you're giving and someone is taking, then I would argue that you're really not in a relationship. You know, this is not a healthy relationship for sure, but you're probably not in a mutually loving, edifying relationship. So then you would have to ask yourself, is this relationship the best thing for me, you know, as a person? So I think as we measure those things, you know, we give lots of things away as a church. And our rule is we give it away and we don't look back. So we've given some things away that we probably got taken advantage of. But most times we give away and it blesses people, and that's our goal. So we want to be creating healthy relationships that are mutually edifying, and I think that's the key word.
Very good. Very good. You know, there are times where there are exceptions where we must give knowing that we can't receive. Sure. Like maybe with a child, but there are other times where when you give and you don't get anything in return, and it becomes a dysfunctional kind of relationship, that's the time that I agree with you. We must sit there and say, okay, how do I love myself? And we're going to continue our conversation.
Let's talk about that.
Yes. We're going to talk with Corky when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Sorry. You just combobulated me.
That was perfect. You said something right at the end that was really, really good. I think the power in giving and loving is that you are simultaneously receiving just in the joy of giving.
You know, it's interesting that you would say that because I organize Christmas caroling every year since I was 19 years old, and we go to people who are dying in the community. Wow. And we've done this. I've done this since I was 19, and there's a guy that plays the guitar for me for the last 20 years. Wow. He's been playing, and I'm just a little bit younger than you. So, it's been very much a part of my life and my children's life as well. And so Christmas doesn't start for me until that day happens. Mm-hmm. And so as I was going back, and it was a very stressful time. The holidays are a stressful time. The show, you have to kick it up. There's, things that you need to do to prepare for your vacation or your time off. Right. And so it even magnifies. And I remember someone saying to me, maybe you shouldn't do it this year, because there's a lot that is going on, and it's so stressful right now. You don't have the time to do this. Mm-hmm. And I even considered not doing it for 1 year. But then as we got closer to that day, and I kept confirming with my friend that plays the guitar. And it came to me that sometimes, because we know the law, we know that when we give, we receive 100 times fold. Sure. And I turned to that person, I said, I know that it looks like I'm giving, but I'm receiving a lot. Yeah. When you look at the faces of the people you're singing to that haven't heard a song sung in their presence in a long time, when you know that the songs that we're singing are bringing back memories of their childhood and tears swell up in their eyes, you know that you're getting more than you're giving. So it's a switch of perception. I'm still doing what I'm doing, but it's a shift of perception. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a place where I feel unconditionally loved 100% of the time. And I go there once a week. But what's interesting is in my life and my schedule, I'm never driving there without thinking of the hundreds of other things I need to do. And then when I get there, I realize, this was the thing I needed to do.
So do you want to share what that is?
I am a third grade room dad at Cambridge Elementary in Cocoa. So I have a room full of third graders that see me as their room dad. And for a lot of them, they don't have a dad. So it's following through on what we said earlier, which is that I want to not be somebody who's just trying to solve my own daddy problems, but I really want to be that guy for other people.
Golly. Oh my gosh. You and I is that the music I'm hearing? No. How much time do we have? Okay. How much time do we have? So did you know that I was the room mom at an emotionally handicapped class for 7 years?
Yeah, I did not know that, but that's amazing.
And I found out that when my kids were in elementary school, I found out about this group of kids that didn't even have their school notebooks and paper, and nobody cared about them. And so I went over there and I found the class and I said, can I bring some notebook paper? What can I do? Yeah. And she said, oh, wow, that would be great. So I brought all these physical things, all these material things. And when I got there, I realized they didn't need any of that. What they needed was me. Yeah. And then after my kids graduated and they were out of elementary school, I needed to move on. And I tell you what, that was tough. It was tough to get out of elementary school and move on to the middle school where they're so hormonal. And
middle school reminds us why some mothers eat their young. So but they get through it. I tell people.
Okay, time to dance.
You can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
You can text Lillian McDermott
that was funny.
Voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where you can hear us worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. I'm your host, Lillian McDermott, and it is my goal that we learn from each other every day. Whoever is in front of you, make them your teacher. As I said, when the student is ready, and we've heard, I didn't say it, I just said it because I've heard it. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. Make each person a teacher. You can learn what to do, and they can be a teacher of what not to do.
Right.
You can discern that 100% of the time if you are in your essence and you can see what people are doing. You see it all the time in life. And I want to encourage you to continue. Let's become responsible. We're talking about love today. We're talking about the kind of love that is a responsible love, the kind of love that has a nice flow to it. And sometimes, you know what? Sometimes you must give and not expect anything in return. And even when you give, you must not expect anything in return. But the perfect kind of love is the one that also receives love. And there's that continuation of the love you give is the love you receive, back and forth coming at you every day of your life. And so I want to encourage that kind of responsible love, the kind of love that leads you to empowerment and freedom. So I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. Please become a subscriber. When you subscribe, you will get a whole bunch of free gifts like the 90-day challenge to self-love ebook, as well as the shows being sent to you. But that's not all. When you're at whenyouneedafriend.com, please go to my sponsors page, because without them, this show would not happen. So make sure that you go to the sponsors and figure out a way that you can support them the way that they are supporting the show. So please go to whenyouneedafriend.com and help me out that way. While you're at the website, there are a bunch of buttons. There's the YouTube video, subscribe there. There's my social media, like me there. Share the word, spread the word, invite your friends to like me. And then also, if I have any guest on the show and you have a question for the guest, maybe there's something that it triggers you. Maybe there's a pain or something that's happening right now as you're listening. You can always call or text at 407-373-5959. And so today we're talking with the pastor at Georgiana United Methodist Church. Now, Georgiana is in Merritt Island, but it's worth a drive for those of us who are in Jacksonville and want to drive and visit this church, worth the while. And so Georgiana is at 3925 South Tropical Trail in Merritt Island. It's really hidden. You really have to look for them. And
go through the woods, over the hill to grandmother's house.
That's right. And it looks like you're going to grandmother's house. And for those of you who want to learn more, go to georgiana.org. And so we have Senior Pastor Corky Calhoun, who I had the privilege of meeting and listening to him speak, and was so mesmerized by his charisma and by his genuine love that he has for what he does. And so even to the point where I get this guy so well that he shared something, he made a comment about burning the ships. And I know exactly that story that you were talking about. So Corky, we were talking about love. And so thank you so much. I know that you don't have a lot of time to do stuff like this, but I'm very grateful that you're sharing your time. Time is so important. That's my love language.
On Time Sunday. I just preached on time.
Did you?
Yeah, and how precious it is, and how we don't respect it as being fragile.
Yes. So. Now, is that one of your love languages? Time, the gift of time?
Yeah, I think it's up there. I think quality time is everything. I shared with the church Sunday that I'm getting better at saying no to good things and some of our church's things, so that I can spend more time with my wife, because she's the better thing. I said we are in the gloriously, happily boring empty nest season of our life.
Oh, no, it is not. Bite your tongue. It is not. The emptiness.
It is blissfully boring.
Oh.
It is blissfully boring.
No.
We love our empty nest season. I told all our young families, I said, listen, hang on. I said, what's coming next is glorious.
It is. It really is.
So just trying to learn how, I think in life, and I think it falls with the conversation we're having about love. I think, to love well also means that you have to know what to say no to, and what to say yes to. That is somebody who I want to believe just loves and gives things away. You've got to remember that there are some priorities to that as well. That it is worthless for me to love my community if I'm not loving my wife and children well. It's worthless for me to love my church if I'm not loving my staff well. And so all of those things flow, and there's some priorities to those things. So I think they all go together, time and love,
Yeah. And included in that is self-love and how we love ourselves. There's a question that I was asked a long time ago, And as much as I do this for a living and I'm there for people to love and pour love onto, the question was asked, what are the 5 top people in your life? And so if I were to ask you that question, who are the top 5 people in your life?
Jesus Christ would be number 1.
Okay.
My wife would be number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, my children.
Mm-hmm.
We'll put them in one category.
Yes, I'll allow you to do that.
Then I would say that a man that was most formative in my life is Jim Russ, who is the retired athletic trainer from Notre Dame, was very influential in my life and a big part of that. And then currently in my life right now is a man named Bill Kennedy, who is the most joyful human being I've ever met on earth. I've never met a more joyful, optimistic, happy, and just when you're around him, his love is sticky. His love.
Sticky love. I love sticky love. That's good.
So you get it on you and you can't get it off. So
well, this is was my realization too. I didn't put myself in that list either.
Yeah. We never do.
But we need to be there. We need to be, because when we love God, is loving self, because God is in us, right? Mm-hmm. So by loving God, we love ourselves. But we there's something that happens where we just put ourselves in the back. I
think if we follow that passage where it says we're to love God with all our heart, all our soul, our mind, and love our neighbors as ourselves, then I would argue we end up in that list when we have a list. Mm-hmm. So just the mere fact that we have a list, we can identify 5, 6, 10 people, whatever it is that we genuinely love, or who we know love us, then we're in that list because that love is reciprocated. So I think I know what you're trying to say is that we end up leaving ourselves off that list.
Yeah.
I always worry about people who can't name 1 or 2 people. I worry about anybody who's in our church who can't put Jesus in the top 5. Mm-hmm. Those are always concerns for me when I'm sitting down with people and trying to help them get their hands wrapped around unconditional love. So I would argue that we're in the list. We're just living it through other people. So,
well, I mean, it would be it'd be a challenge for people like us that constantly are giving, mm-hmm. to make room for ourselves in that list.
Yeah.
To mindfully not live in that list through others, but live mindfully in that list.
Yeah, but I think it's the concept of community that. Mm-hmm. That I think when you love yourself well, you are immersed in community. That I don't believe any of us were created for isolation. None of us were created to do life alone, which is why love is such an important part of relational dynamics, and the need to be loved and to love ourselves, and to know that we're, one of the things we've been focusing on as a church this year is looking at things of dignity and worth. How do we help our community recognize people who see themselves without dignity and worth, and how do we speak into that? Because I think culturally we're really struggling with seeing everyone as someone of value, and so we're just trying to make some inroads in that. But
I love it.
I think it's a community deal. I think we want you love well when you're with others. And you can be loved when you're with others. But I think it also starts vertically, that, God first loved you and loved you just as you are. He doesn't need you to be somebody else. So.
Yes. So let's talk. We talked about conditional, unconditional. And so along with this conditional love or unconditional love, mm-hmm. we must experience forgiveness. We must love to learn to forgive. And forgiveness is not for the others. It's really, truly to set ourselves free. Yeah. And people don't understand that. They confuse trust and forgiveness. What can you say about that in less than a minute?
In less than a minute, I can tell you that it's one of those things I teach on all the time. I teach people when they sit in my office and they're in broken situations. I said, listen, forgiveness is not trust. It may take a long time, and you may never be able to trust that person again. But forgiveness is something that sets you free. Mm-hmm. So, what happens is most of the people that we hold unforgiveness towards aren't even worried about what we're dragging around and carrying around. And
I know they're out having a good old time.
They're sleeping well at night as you toss and turn and plan revenge and all these kind of things. So I would say that I would say that the two are not, they don't necessarily go together, but we confuse them. So
yes. And there's so much more that we can talk about this
Mhm.
when we return. So we are talking to Pastor Corky Calhoun, Senior Pastor Corky Calhoun of Georgiana Church in Merritt Island. And we're going to continue our conversation about love, unconditional love, and what it entails when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
You use the word Jesus.
Yes.
And you use and we know the stories, and we know that as a Christian, what we believe in.
Right.
But I have a segment on my show called Breaking Down the Walls of Religion.
Mhm.
And where I bring and I worship with Hindus, Muslims, and you even, the day I was there, you said, oh yeah, I even worshiped with a Baptist. And my goal is to find what we have in common. So I said the word, let's embrace Hinduism. And when I mean the word embrace, it means bring into the fold, understand what they believe and embrace that. Well, I was told by a Christian that I was not going to have, that I was going to hell because
Wow.
I believed that there was more than one path to God. And that there was only one path to God, which is through the Son of God, which is Jesus. And I said, but wait a minute, I'm the daughter of God. And what about Muhammad? They were the son of God. What about, all these other people, Gandhi? What about, there is the story of God in all of us.
Mhm.
Am I going to hell?
I would not think that you're going to hell just simply based on that statement. I think that the reason that there's a part of God in all of us is because there was one God who implanted into us the truth of who he was. And so we have this innate, hardwired need for God. Now, we can reject God. We could certainly go down many, many paths. I think as a Christian that I adhere to the biblical scriptures. So I would say what you said a while ago, that there are many, many ways to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is the way to the Father based on Christianity.
Correct.
I can't speak for the Hindus or Muslims or any of those kind of things. One of the things I tell people all the time is God didn't ask me to be judged, and I don't get to decide who does and doesn't go into hell. I only get to decide if I'm on the right path for myself to spend eternity with the Father, and that's my goal.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I love that because, when I went to the Hindu temple and
Mhm.
I was toured, I was given a tour by the president of the University of Hindu of America, the University of Hindus of America, or America. Yeah. And anyway, he said that there are many deities, but only one God. And that those deities, if whatever gets you to God, and what he had said was that when you have a picture of your mother, let's say you have a picture when she was 2, and I have a picture when she was 5, and my other sibling has a picture where they were 19. They're different images, but they're still the same mother.
Mm-hmm.
That's the image of the mother. And they say that there's only one God. Even though they have many ways to God, that there's only one way to that God. Or it's only one God. And as I've gone to different churches, that's been the theme, only one God. So I wonder if that was the way for other denominations or other people to get
You got to adhere to what it is that
you can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where you're always with a friend. And here today we have Senior Pastor Corky Calhoun of Georgiana Church in Merritt Island, and we're talking about love. And before we went on to the break, we talked about forgiveness and trust. And Pastor Corky, you had mentioned that they're not the same, and they're not. Trust and forgiveness are not the same. Trust is something that you've got to earn, and lifetime to build it, a second to break it. And so then you have to start over the process again and again and again, if it's worth it. If there's abuse of any kind, I say cut the strings. What do you say?
I think so. I think, we want to encourage people to know that God does not want them to live under this level of abuse, and that's not God's will for their life to be subject to emotional or physical abuse. And so one of the things that we talk about is that trust can never be reestablished when there's been no genuine repentance. And I think
You're right.
People would love to skip that step and just go from, I hurt you, I said I was sorry, let's move on. The genuine repentance, at least biblically, is restoration, that you have to restore in that person the things that you stole emotionally or physically. And I think where there's a lack of repentance, then any hope of future trust is evaporated. But, I tell people that, if the minimum definition of love is that I wish you no harm, we can all get to that place, that, listen, what you did to me was awful or hurtful or suspect, but at the end of the day, I'm going to love you because I wish you no harm, I kind of half made this joke Sunday. I said, I was talking about the love I have for my wife. And I said, one of the things that's really cool after 35 years is not only do we love each other, but man, we really like each other.
Yes.
And I said, I love all of you in this room. God's called me to love all of you. I don't know that I like all of you, but I love all of you.
No, but that is so true.
I think it's true. I think that, there are just some natural fits for people in life. And you go, man, I really like that person. For me in my job, God's called me to love everybody, regardless of their situation, their background, what's going on. And I love them. I might not agree with everything that they do, and I might not agree with everything they say. But my goal is just to love them. God's not asked me to do anything other than that. And then the people we like are the people we fill our life with.
Yes. And interesting that you would say that, because I've shared this story before on the show. There was someone that was very dear to me that hurt, that intentionally hurt. Yeah. Yeah. And because that person is going to be in my life for the rest of my life, there's nothing I can do about that. I decided, because I was carrying and harboring so much resentment for the situation, that I decided that it was really hurting me. The way I was feeling towards that individual was, and so the first thing I did was I shifted, what can I learn from that individual? Not what to do, what not to do. I learned what not to do, how it feels when you are treated in a certain way. And then the next thing was, how do I let go of my anger, of my resentment? Because if I let it stay in my body, it will harbor into disease. And I know that from all the teachers that I've had on the show now. And I knew that instinctively, but now I know it because of I've studied it, and I know it firsthand because I lived it. And so what I did was, at the end of the show, I wish people love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. And what you give out into the world comes back to you. So, again, it's that giver that knows that you're going to give, but you're going to receive 100 times fold, right? So I started wishing that person love, peace, joy. I wish them success. I wish them everything that I wanted for myself.
Right.
And when I saw that person again, I was able to love them and give them a kiss and truly be happy to see them, but they are not in my inner circle.
Right. I
don't trust them.
I think that's fine. I think that's okay. I think in my world, we talk about it. In my inner circle, we talk about it. So this is going to make my inner circle a big outer circle on your show. that in my life, it's easy to be used by people for them to get what they want from you, and then they walk out of your life.
Yes.
And so as somebody who loves unconditionally and gives his time unconditionally, that's always got a level of hurt to it. That's always painful when people can discard you so easily after you've given so much to them. But at the end of the day, I tell people, what are you going to do? You're going to quit loving people? I mean, what is your response to being wounded and hurt? Just to crawl into a hole and never love again, or to abandon any concepts of love? So I think the key for us as people is to remember that we can't control the people that hurt us, but we absolutely can control the amount of love we dispense. So, I just used this phrase a couple of weeks ago in church, that we can't control the darkness in the world, but we control the amount of light we shed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just said that to the tribe, the Heal tribe in Jacksonville. I said, it says it in the Bible that to take your light from underneath the bushel, take your candle out of it underneath the bushel. Because you keep the candle underneath the bushel or the light underneath the bushel, it's going to burn the bushel, right? So take the candle out. And I said, but don't just be the light in a candle. You be a lighthouse. We're all lighthouses. It's because that little light that we have in that candle eliminates darkness.
Yeah.
Just completely. You can't have darkness with just a tiny little light. And so we all need to proclaim and declare what we believe. But at the same time, if something that someone else believes is different than us, we still love them. We find the things that we have in common as opposed to the things that we don't have in common.
The way that I learned it when I was in seminary is there's a kernel of truth between all of us. Lillian, as you and I get to know each other better, and if we had this conversation every day for the next 6 months, what we would find is there are a lot of things that we don't agree on. But what we would discover is that at the very minimum, there's a kernel of truth that we both universally believe is the heart of all things.
Absolutely.
So the key is we have this big cob, but we have one kernel, right? That we go, listen, we can connect on that. It's so you try to find those things in all people. So
I love that cob, that corn on the cob that you were representing, because that's what you were showing me was a corn on the cob. But guess what that one kernel is? That seed that created the corn. And that's what we all have in common. Yeah. We have that one seed that was planted that created all. Yeah. Whether we call it whatever we want to call it, the creator that created me is the same creator that created you, no matter what you believe.
And that same creator had the same hopes and dreams for you as he does for me. So, and love is the thing that should bind us together.
That's right. And you know what? They have, and I don't know how much time we have left there, but they were able to look at the DNA of just thousands and millions of people. And in the DNA, of course, we have like a little universe, what our cells do is the same thing that we do. They're little humans, and a tiny little version. But in the center of each cell was an exact same match across the board. You could not separate them. So that's why I believe we're all one. We all come from that one seed, that one kernel. And if we can look at that kernel that unites us, then I believe that we are halfway there, or maybe mostly there. What do you think?
Amen.
I love that kernel, that corn, the cob that has all those. And you notice sometimes there's like one off. There's like this one little spot missing, or there's a dark spot in there. So,
I think it represents life.
I love it. You've just given me a good visual.
There you go. Metaphor for the day.
A metaphor for the day. We are corn in the cobs.
That's right.
But corn's on the... I can't believe the time is done. I think we're done, right? Yes. Music has started and we're ready. Thank you so much, Corky,
my pleasure.
for being on the show. The church is Georgiana Church, georgiana.org, and you can see them at the church. Go to on Sundays. I'll ask you off the air what the times are that people can hear you and go to church. But for now, this is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. That's the best ever. Good job. Okay, so if for those of you who are still watching and you'd like to try to go to a community of like-minded people, and it's interesting, when I went to I'd never gone to a Methodist church. I'd gone to Episcopalian. I've gone to different others because I love worshiping with people.
Right.
I just love worshiping with people. And it used to not be that way. I used to always go to my church and that was it. I didn't cross the pew. I was always in that, certain area. But now I not only cross the pew, I open the door to another church. And so when can people go and worship at Georgiana?
We have 3 services, one at 8:15, one at 9:45, and one at 11:15 that never starts on time.
I can vouch to that because we were going to be late one day and my husband and I were like, should we even go? I said, well, we'll just sit in the back. Well, not only did we get there at right on time, I think we barely got there at like 11:17 and the church was full and we had to walk all the way to the front.
Yes, we call it the walk of shame, having to go to the front row. The splash zone is what we call it. So, but that's how we met, and I think God had a plan for you and I to meet and to get to know each other better. So
absolutely, and I'm looking forward to. I would like to invite you on April 25th, which is next Wednesday. I am starting a healthy eating and living tribe. I would love for you to invite your parishioners. I would love for you to be a part of our group. It would be great because we're going to talk more than just food. We're going to talk about a mind, body, spirit approach to healing. This is a place where I've got Bonefish Grill creating a whole food plant-based meal that is to live for.
There we go.
And so we come together as a tribe, not a support group, but as a tribe, people that belong there. And we will embrace everybody through love and help everybody achieve the kind of healing that they want. And would love to have you there. You don't even have to be there as a pastor. You can be there for you, or you could be there for someone that you believe would love to go to, but I'd love to invite you. So we're going to meet on April 24th at the Bonefish Grill in Merritt Island at 5:30. Please consider it if you'd like to join us. And for those of you who are watching that are in the Brevard County area and you'd like to come too, then I'd love to invite you to, because it's a big room. It's a big room and they are so excited to have us. So would you consider it?
Absolutely. We'll take a look at the calendar.
Awesome. And so thank you so much. Is there anything you would like to add before I shut the recording off and say goodbye to the people that will...
No, I think I love these kind of conversations where we can just kind of share our hearts, and I got a chance to see your heart, and that was nice.
Thank you. It was nice to see your heart even more.
So,
you give of yourself when you're up in the podium or the pulpit, and you're sharing. I loved it when you spoke from a place of, your whole entire sermon was wonderful. But I would know when you deviated from it, because there was a different, you would look a different way, or you would speak from your experience.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I loved when you would take that out of your talk.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I just thought, wow, I really do need to have you, because I knew that you would be able to do this and beyond. Of course, you're a little apprehensive at first to have this kind of conversation, but you're hasn't anybody told you you're a natural?
No, you're the first. I don't know that I'm natural at this, but it was a joy to visit. So
Thank you.
It was nice that it just felt like we were sitting in my office and talking. So
wonderful. Thank
Lily,
you.
I wish you all the best. Thanks for blessing me this morning.
Thank you for blessing us. And to you, my viewers, thank you so much for watching today. And I look forward to our next conversation.